Welcome to America's Mayor Live. I'm alive and I have Lauren with me, right?
Yes, Lauren Conlon. I'm back.
Lauren.
I'm back.
You remember, Lauren, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to have some serious things to talk about. So I'll just lead off with one that just got to get out of the way right away. They better search Biden. They better search Biden, because if they don't, they should really fold up the FBI. Just close it down. Let's do away with it. Let's go hire new people. A lot of the agents in the field we can hire again. But I mean, this is totally, it's getting to be totally absurd. And if you people take it, you're dopes. You want to have your rights taken away from you. You really do. I mean, this isn't even a matter of whether he committed a crime or not. This is a matter of national security. They try to say, well, Trump was worse. Like hell he was. These documents were missing for 6 years. We don't know what's in them, but we do know they relate to China and Ukraine. Gee, that's funny. Those are the two countries he took the most money from. Wow, I wonder how that coincidence happened. Just so happens he took documents from China, and China in the last 6 years or so, 7 years, 8 years, has given the Biden crime family $31 million. Recorded, probably a lot more. That's a lot of money.
They're not good people.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could have been Norway. It could have been Finland. It could have been UK. It could have been, I don't know, maybe they gave him money too, but we don't have any proof of that.
No.
Then the other country that we have is Ukraine. Ukraine, they pulled in anywhere from 8 to 20 million, bribing the president of the Ukraine to save the most crooked business in the Ukraine. And those documents happen to be among the documents that were taken illegally from the White House and gone for 6 years. And then the FBI says it's okay if the lawyers search for it. So it's like this, Lauren. When the FBI knocked on my door a year and a half ago to search me and to ransack my law office, I should have said, no, wait there. I'm going to call my lawyer. Come back in later today or tomorrow. My lawyer will give you everything. He'll look through it.
Right.
You don't need to. You have a lot more important things to do than searching my apartment. Why don't you let my lawyer do it?
You'd think, right?
Yeah. Or maybe Trump. Trump's lawyer asked if she could accompany them. Yeah. They told her no. Trump's lawyer asked, can we photograph what you're doing? No. Now, my trust in the FBI is such that I believe that means if you want to say they planted things, you have a perfect right to say it, because they left themselves open to that criticism. If you want to say they left incriminating documents behind because they were Biden's lawyers, you have a perfect right to say it. And our national security isn't really satisfied until we find out where have the documents been in those 6 years, who has seen them, how often did Biden's son see them. They were right next to the car in the garage. He's driving that car all the time, usually smoking crack.
Yeah.
I mean, did he burn any of the documents with crack? I don't know. He was smoking crack all over that house.
I think that at this point, many people have really lost faith in the justice system.
It's terrible, but they should.
After seeing, I don't want to say I'm not one of those people, because I see this and I see how one-sided it is, and it's troubling. It's really troubling. And then just to piggyback on why the Bidens are just not good people, it barely made the headlines the other day, but Hunter has a child with a former stripper, or maybe she's still a stripper, I'm not even sure. And she wanted to have her daughter have the last name of Biden so her daughter could have a better life.
Well, didn't she have to go about proving it was the daughter? He denied paternity. He denied paternity.
Of course he did.
Until DNA proved that, once again, as almost always is the case, the Bidens lie.
Yes.
I mean, I've never seen a group of people that lie as often as they do.
Yes. So he lied. Yeah. And
I would have bet everything I have on that. If Biden says something and somebody comes to you and says, you want to bet it's a lie, bet on lie.
Bet on it, yeah, exactly. We'd be very wealthy, very, very wealthy.
I think it's a pretty good bet, guys, that Corn Pop was a good dude.
Yeah, Corn Pop. No, I don't. I believe that Corn Pop beat the hell out of him. That's what I think.
Thanks for joining us on America's Mayor Live with America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani and special guest. We're going to go ahead and call you a Hollywood insider.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I am. So
she's a Hollywood insider, but she reports to the outside.
I do. Listen, I want to tell everybody just where I came from just now. So I came from the Jewish Heritage Museum, which they were premiering a movie, a film that was actually a book and then a play and now a movie. And it's called Remember This. And you are going to know about this person. I did not. And I said to, them, I was ashamed I didn't know who this was. His name is Jan Karski. You know who he is. Exactly. Of course, the mayor does. So
tell our audience.
Yes, for the audience, he was a Polish soldier. He was a resistance fighter in World War II. And thank you. The camera's here, guys. The camera's here, just so you know. So he was this incredible man, did so much to save the Jewish people. And he was such an incredible person. And I didn't even know this, but on 37th and Madison, which I walk by all the time.
Yeah,
that's him, the bronze statue. Yes, it's Jan Karski. I know. Sorry, I'm in my
wow. No, I didn't know that.
Yes, I didn't either. So that person and that plaque, it's like it's Karski Way or something like that. But I'm like, oh my goodness. So they have this actor, David Strathern. I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation, but you can see he was nominated for some Academy Awards. I just interviewed him. He plays Jan Karski, and it's actually a one-person movie.
Oh, wow. Those are hard.
Oh.
You would know that more than I would.
Yeah,
but
it was
I think the one-person plays are so difficult.
Well, that's what this was. But they would flash to interviews with Jan Karski where he would just break down. He couldn't even talk about things. And so just piggybacking off this, at the Jewish Heritage Museum, I ended up meeting a lot of amazing people. One woman, her late husband, was one of the youngest resistance fighters in France. At age 10, him and his brother escaped Auschwitz, the train to Auschwitz that his parents were on, and ran into the woods, basically. And then it was incredible to me. People just coming out and just knowing what's happening in the city lately. Are you guys kidding? Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know what's going on now that's making it happen as much as it is. There's no big issue. In any event, it's a problem that's existed for thousands of years. And you would think, I thought a few years ago we were over it. Well, we were beyond it. And then President Bush appointed me as the head of a commission. And we went to Geneva to talk about what has to be done about anti-Semitism in Europe and in the United States. And I was really surprised to see the statistics. Yeah. Even in Europe. In Europe, this is about 15 years ago. It was much worse in Europe than in the United States.
Really?
Yeah. Our statistics were actually pretty good compared to Europe. I think that's changing.
Well, these people there, some of them, they're telling me their stories, and I'm like, these stories are so incredible. Why have I not heard it? Well, the consensus there was that people couldn't talk. People that experienced what they experienced during the Holocaust, it took them 40 years to actually speak about it.
It's like people in war. It's very hard.
Or 9/11, though. They can't just talk about it. It takes them forever.
I have watched none of the movies about 9/11. I haven't watched the documentaries that I'm in.
Well, I remember when I first met you, all I wanted to do was ask you about
I'll talk
9/11.
about it. I'll talk about it endlessly because I think that's therapeutic. I actually encourage my friends who went through it with me to talk about it a lot.
But you change. I've noticed that you change when you speak about it. And
I absolutely change.
You do.
But I find it healthy to talk about it.
Right. Well,
it probably would be healthy if I went and saw the movies too, but I can't. I just can't. I went and watched one, and I walked out a third of the way through.
Which one was it? Do you know?
The one actually wasn't even. It was the one about the flight. Flight 93.
I was gonna guess that one.
Yeah, but I
that movie wasn't good, but that's okay.
The documentaries too.
Those are what get me.
There were several documentaries that featured me, and I haven't watched. HBO did one about a year or 2 years later. It's actually a really high quality documentary that people have, really praised, and it's won awards. And
you never watched
the only part of it I watched was Beth, my assistant Beth, describe her husband.
Oh no!
I watched that part of it. I wanted to see it because there was something I was looking for in it, and found it. And but I didn't watch any of me. I watched a few of my friends here and there, and it's been on. I mean, it's been on now in recent years. It's been on television. You know, like one of those documentaries they show at 9/11 time.
Right. And I remember specifically because we worked together at WC Radio and ABC. And I just remember you come in, you've got a pep in your step and you're super friendly, doors always open. And then I do remember on 9/11, it was the first time I ever saw you shut a door.
Not bad.
I know it sounds crazy, but it was, it's been a long time and it's hard for you.
But if people that go through traumatic experiences like that, it never ends. It's always with you.
Exactly.
And you have to find ways to deal with it so that you grow, so that it doesn't dwarf you but it is going to, but if you think it's not going to hurt you and it's not going to affect you, and then you're actually fighting a battle that you're going to lose. So you might as well just realize it's going to affect you. And when it does, give into it.
I agree. And you're lucky to have friends like Bernie Carrick and people that you still.
Well, he and I lived through it together.
Exactly.
We saved each other's lives, and it creates a bond. That creates a bond that nobody can break up.
I just want to hug you because it's just like it makes you want to break down on the sadness. But
before moving on, the one point I want to add to this is that Mayor, for an event like that, there's really no one that can really share that experience with you. It's such a extraordinary moment in human history that it's something that you and those that you shared it with have to process. And there are plenty of people that can help you. But there's really, in my mind, such an unprecedented event, something that there's no real comparison.
No, I guess. But look, I've been through a lot. So that was the worst. That was the worst.
Thanks for joining us this evening on America's Mayor Live with America's Mayor.
So did you see this? Did you see this guy here? I got one of these guys after 30 years. They got him. This guy's boss wanted to kill me. What's it?
No way.
85, 95. No.
The Cosa Nostra boss?
30, 35, 6, 7, 38 years ago, his boss wanted to kill me.
This guy's savage.
So this guy, as far as I'm concerned, is a youngster. He was like a kid when I was investigating the Sicilian Mafia. This is Matteo Messina Denaro. He's only 60 years old. And when I at the time that I was investigating the Mafia, his father, who was a Mafia boss from Trapani, Sicily, had given him to Salvatore Riina. Salvatore Riina, whose nickname was Toto, was the head of the Mafia at the time. And he was a maniacal killer. It says here, I'll just read what the Post says. He killed 3,000 people in several years. He was the most violent of all the Godfathers. So what happened is Dennaro's father gives him to Toto to basically groom him.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Riina, one of the first things that he does, Riina was so bloodthirsty that he once sent a hitman to America with the assignment to kill then federal prosecutor Rudy Giuliani. That was in the 1980s when the mob boss was ticked off over Giuliani's friendship with Palermo's anti-mafia judge, Giovanni Falcone. The hit was ultimately canceled over fears of blowback. And it was a $800,000 contract.
I can't believe you sent to kill you.
$800,000. They wanted to kill me. And they decided not to, that it'd be too much bad publicity.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'd be, that's so.
But then about 3 years later, when I was leaving, Carmine Persico wanted me killed, and he only offered $400,000. And I was extraordinarily insulted.
That's so offensive.
I go down half, 50%. I devalued by 50%.
That's messed up.
At least the Sicilians had at least some sense of my value. The American Mafia guy's so cheap.
Wait, that's actually so funny that we're even talking
that one they didn't take because they weren't offering enough money.
Well, this guy is no joke. I read it, and this really messed me up. Yeah.
A maniac.
I mean, I read that he dissolved a 12-year-old boy in acid because his father was a rat. And that is what really messed me up. I was like, I'm sorry. If that's I mean,
he also ordered the killing of the gentleman they're talking about. There lived the one they wanted to kill me because I was friendly with Giovanni Falcone. It was more than a friendship. Giovanni worked in my office for 3 years. He was an Italian magistrate, and we investigated the Sicilian and Italian mafia together. So he helped us with our hundreds of prosecution, and we helped him with his 800-person case. And so this was 83, 84. In 1993, he was leaving the Palermo airport with his just married this beautiful lady, and he was driving out of the airport, and they set a trap for him, and they blew him up and killed him. It was an Italian judge, and then they killed another Italian judge, Borsellino.
Jeez.
And it turned out that whoever said it's bad publicity was right. The Italian government cracked down on them, and they're no longer the same.
Right.
The Italian Sicilian mafia is no longer a primary organized crime group. The group in Calabria is much more powerful. Pushes them around.
I don't want to mess with any of them. I just want to live my life, and I don't know. They're so scary.
That's the way most Italians feel, and
you're ballsy, man.
And that's why I went after them, because most Italians are not like that. And I did think that being Italian, it would convince people, because there was a bit of a prejudice.
Right.
Mario Cuomo used to address himself to this a lot, but there was a bit of a prejudice that every Italian American is mafia. Of course, it's a small, teeny percentage.
Right.
I don't know. Could it be 1%? Probably not even 1%.
I was about to say that. That's you're right. Yeah. It's got to be below 1%.
Couple of thousand people.
No.
The mafia added. The estimates of the mafia are a little crazy. If you talk about members of the mafia, made members, that's small.
I mean, don't you have to be 100% Italian too? You cannot be.
You're supposed to. Yeah. Originally, you had to be 100% Sicilian.
Sicilian.
Because Mafia strictly, Cosa Nostra is strictly a Sicilian organization. Drangheta is the Calabrian organization. And then there's another organization whose name escapes me for Naples. But they broke that down pretty quickly. Al Capone, for example, came from Naples, not Sicily. And you would say, if he didn't run the Mafia, he was sort of the most significant boss for a while.
Right.
But most of the leadership of the Mafia was Sicilian. When they put the commission together, well, certainly the head, Lucky Luciano, was Sicilian. I think all the heads were Sicilian. I think, but they've made exceptions. That rule kind of was at the very beginning, and then that kind of broke down. So if you were Italian, you would be allowed in. Have they let some people in that weren't Italian? Probably half Italian.
Half.
I can think of half Italian, half Irish.
But why do you think that people glorify the mafia so much? This whole and other groups that, let's say, murder people and do illegal things. Why does the mafia?
Well, I do think they were unusual. They achieved a degree of power and infiltration of our legitimate society that no other organized crime group did. For example, they ran Las Vegas. The most of the casinos were owned by the Teamsters Central States Pension Fund.
Wow.
The Teamsters were owned by the Mafia.
I had no idea.
Jimmy Hoffa sold out to the Mafia in order to protect them. And they ran that, and they used the Central States Pension Fund, which is the fund of the union. They put the money in. Central States Pension Fund laundered it, and they owned 60% of the casinos, 70% of the casinos.
Wow.
in Las Vegas. Every month, because they were old timers. None of this wire transfer.
Yeah, exactly.
Two guys who did it for years would show up at each casino and collect the money.
Thinking of the movie Casino. Is that what you're thinking of?
Absolutely true.
I know. I'm
100% true, but a much more intricate process than
Rothstein.
Well, they kind of
Rothstein.
They kind of describe it and simplify it a little. Like he only goes to 5 places and there's only one guy.
Yeah,
there were about 20 deliveries that were made, and it was a group of about 20. There was like a crew, a gang. that did just that.
I mean, I still know women that are like, no, I want to be a mob wife. Like they literally say
Wasn't
they
that
want.
a show on TV?
No, it was, but I'm saying like
recently?
I know women that say stuff like that because they make this whole life look so glamorous and so.
Well, that's exactly right. And Mayor, can you speak to that? How glamorous is it really? What would you tell
well, that's what we were just talking about this. Like, what I mean, why is it glorified? Why is it so glamorous?
Yeah.
Well, these men tend to treat their women, at least on screen, or very nicely, very. Roll out the red carpet, right?
They treat their wives. They treat their wives beautifully because they're cheating on them all the time, and they don't want to get in trouble. Although I have to say, Fat Tony used to listen to Margaret. Fat Tony used to listen to Margaret.
Who's Fat Tony? Tell our audience who Fat.
Well,
Tony
first of all, I've listened to 4,000 hours of Men on Tape talk like this. I rarely, if ever, describe the individual conversations because they're privileged.
Yeah.
The ones that aren't are the ones that were used at trials and became public. And I pretty much disciplined myself to just talk about those.
Sure.
But then I have a whole other group so I just use them because I can give you opinions of them. I mean, they should have used me for movies. Because I can look at a mafia movie and I can tell you what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. They got it right or they got it wrong in terms of.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do that with. I'm not kidding. We are going to film this.
Yeah.
We're going to watch Godfather. We're going to watch Casino. We're going to watch Goodfellas.
Oh, you're trying
to watch a couple of these others.
You're talking about three of the best.
Yeah.
Yes. And
not too much in terms of realism. Not too much criticism of any one of those.
Really?
Okay.
Oh wow.
Well,
not that all of it happened,
but
and
still,
not that they didn't fictionalize.
That's good.
And not that they didn't like the Lufthansa robbery, which is part of Goodfellas. Somewhat fictionalized the way it's done, but it did happen.
Right.
You take the Frank Sinatra character in Johnny Fontaine.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the facts of. In fact, Frank was with I think Benny Goodman, and a show came along called The Hit Parade on radio, and you were going to get to sing to a national audience. Which the thing, this was before television. This is where the best you were going to do as a singer. Is you go to the Brooklyn Paramount, the New York Paramount, maybe you perform in Las Vegas. Not Las Vegas. No Las Vegas now.
No.
Los Angeles. But the people in the middle of the country never get to see you. You can't travel.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, this thing radio came along, and now you could sing in Omaha, Nebraska. And they came up with a show called The Hit Parade, and the Hit Parade picked the 5 or 6 or 10, I don't remember, best songs of the week.
Ooh.
And they did a countdown to number 1.
Okay.
But instead of performing it with the singer and the record, they had their own cast for the Hit Parade. They had like 2 or 3 males, 2 or 3 females, and you got this position. Like Rosemary Clooney, I think, was one of them. So you got this position, you became a big star.
Wow.
I mean, a year and a half later, 2 years later, you were in a movie with Bing Crosby.
Wow.
So I mean,
because you became
all of a sudden, all of a sudden, the people in the middle of the country who go to the movies know who you are.
Right.
But I mean, if you were just Frank Sinatra, where the girls from Hoboken in New York were going crazy, and you were part of a movie, the people in Austin, Texas aren't going to know who the hell you are, right? But if they hear you on the Hit Parade every week, then Frank Sinatra isn't. So Frank wanted the part. Problem was he had a contract with the band leader, and they had to get him out of it, and they did. So he finishes with the Hit Parade, becomes a big star, gets into these singing movies, goes back with Benny Goodman, new contract, and now his voice, he lost his voice for a while, and he's panicked. And this book comes out, and it's a bestseller called From Here to Eternity. And there's a part in it of a guy named DiMaggio, who's a runt, who is a obstinate soldier who won't give in to the brutal sergeant who has imprisoned him, plays by Ernest Borgnine. And he has decided, I get that part, I win an Academy Award. I could act that part in my sleep. Except Benny Goodman says, sorry, we're not letting you out of the contract again. And he goes and visits Sam Giancana. And I don't know if they said to the band leader, either here's the contract, either your signature or your brains will be on that contract. or they made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Oh,
But the contract with Benny Goodman was broken again. Frank Sinatra showed up in the movie, and lo and behold, he won the award for Best Supporting Actor and went on to a hell of a movie career.
Yep. What do you think about my other favorite mob movie, A Bronx Tale? How
Love
accurate?
A Bronx Tale.
Yeah, is that
Well,
accurate?
I mean, it's his life, Chaz Palminteri. I think it's as accurate. I mean, I wouldn't know because I didn't grow up with Chaz.
Right.
But I assume you would know this better. But anytime you do a movie or a play, you have to fictionalize it a little.
Of course.
Right? You got to cut down the number of characters. You've got to consolidate.
Got to
dramatize
some stuff.
I think if the theory of it is probably right. I mean, these mafia bosses in those Italian neighborhoods, they were really big shots.
Yes. And
if you're just like in a black neighborhood with a drug dealer.
Exactly.
Same thing. The drug dealer becomes the big shot. And that's what happened to that. That's part of the problem. And it's also part of the problem in letting him loose. You know, the drug dealer's running the neighborhood. The police arrest him, and he's out in 5 hours. Now everybody figures he's more powerful than the police.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the things I was very aware of.
Alvin Bragg, though, that's the other thing.
Well, that was something I was very aware of, having grown up in Brooklyn. I was very aware of that. And one of the ways we're going to crack crime is we're going to take these neighborhoods away from the John Gottis on the Italian side. We're going to take them away from the Nicky Barnes on the black side.
Mayor, could someone who didn't grow up around this like you did, come in and know what you did?
My Ivy League, brilliant assistant U.S. attorneys didn't know how to talk to the FBI. Wow. I mean, what I had to do is I had to bring them in and stick them in a unit and have them work with the drug agents and do the drug cases, because then every other word was F. By the time they were finished, we completely ruined their language.
Was it Harvard and Yale?
Oh, their parents must have gone crazy. They went to Harvard and Yale, and all of a sudden they're talking like in New York City. They got that effing guy, motherfucker. Well, a year later, the guy was first in his class at Harvard, and he every other word is F coming out of his mouth. But meanwhile, now the agent now trusts him. The agent's now willing to tell him what the case is really about, or if there's a problem in the case, he's willing to trust him with it.
That's so funny.
And
he's able to assess the behavior of the people he's investigating, because I always knew I would need them a few years later for big cases. So I had to train them with little cases.
Did these guys, during the height of these cases, when you were in the middle of this, Mayor, as U.S. Attorney, did they ever telegraph messages to you? Did you hear from them in the streets?
Who?
You hear about that, right? The Mafia. You hear about them when they'd say hi to the tail, right? The FBI.
Oh, I did with Gotti once.
They did that with you?
Yeah, I did it with Gotti once. I was with a reporter who was doing a feature article about me, and I said, "Hey, you want to take a ride in Little Italy? We'll see what's going on." So she said, "Okay." So I got in my car. I didn't have protection then, so I got in my car and I drove up Mulberry Street, and I just had an instinct that Gotti would be there because they had shot up his social club in Brooklyn, and I think he can be one of two places today. He can be sitting in front of that social club in Brooklyn saying, "I'm not afraid of you," or given the fact that the place is a crime scene. Yeah. And they probably wouldn't let him sit in front of it. He's got to be at the Ravenite on Mulberry Street. So at 3:00 in the afternoon, I put her in my car, just her, me, no police, no guard. I said, "Let's continue your interview." So she's interviewing me. We come to Mulberry Street, and there he is. He's sitting. The Ravenite. The Ravenite had like little tape. Yeah, it has little tables up against the wall. And what he did, he took those tables and he put them out next to the street to be very prominent. And he sat there all by himself, drinking like some Italian, I guess, wine, or may have even been water that he made to look like that. And, oh, no, it's not still there. It's been replaced.
Yeah.
Okay. And I go by and I see him. And he goes like this to me. And I go back to him. You know what I was saying?
What?
You're a leader. That's what a leader does. You're a piece of scum, and you're a murderer, and you really and stop doing this thing like the Mafia people are smart enough to be successful in real life because you're a dumb guy. I hear you're on tape. You can't even speak English well.
Really?
No, Gotti was not the bright guy you think he was.
Yeah.
He was the feared guy, though. Gotti was a certain type of mafia guy. Gotti likes killing. Now, you would think, well, everybody in the mafia likes killing. Not so. A lot of them, they have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't like Fat Tony Salerno was one of the most respected mafia guys. He really made the gambling business for them. Reputedly owned several heavyweight champs, including Floyd Patterson. Arguably fixed the fight with Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston.
Wow.
And sort of did what he did was he laid off bets, which is if like this weekend, who are the Giants? Giants are playing Philadelphia this weekend, right?
Saturday night.
So we're close together. So all the money in New York, going to be on the Giants.
Okay.
All the money in Philadelphia is going to be on the Eagles.
Yeah.
The rest of the country will be spread around. So what Tony figured out was all the guys in New York are going to get killed if the Giants lose or don't make the spread. So they would lay off bets. They'd bet large sums with each other.
Okay.
So that if the Giants lost, the New York Mafia would win money from the Philadelphia Mafia that would make up for the money they were losing. So they'd calculate on your bet, instead of making 70%, they'd make only 20. They'd give away 20 or 30% of your bet.
That seems kind of smart, though.
It's smart as hell.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm telling you they're all very, very different.
Right.
And the reason Fat Tony was so respected, they all trusted him because they didn't have computers then. They're not going to put it down too much on paper.
Right.
So Fat Tony used to carry this in his head.
Carry what?
The figures in his head.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he had a system for it.
So he never had to.
He had a system for it, a system that only he understood. Because I listened to him on tape, try to explain it a few times. I couldn't understand it.
Really?
Yeah, you see what you do. You give 4 points. You give 4 points to Rocco, and then Salvatore gets 6 points because there's more money over here than down there. A lot of times it was cross country. A lot of the layoffs. It wasn't just football; it was basketball.
College basketball.
Oh.
I mean, that used to be big time in New York City, right?
Well, before I was U.S. attorney, they used to fix those games.
Straight up fix the whole thing.
They had great big scandals. Point shaving.
I believe that. I totally believe that. My husband went there, St. John's.
Oh, but what conference was that? The big basketball conference. They were all.
I don't know anything about it.
They're in the Big East now. They used to be in the Metropolitan Conference.
And the conference was ran by the
But they used to shave points because the funny joke is at Madison Square Garden, if people aren't used to it, they come from out of town. You know, the Knicks are losing by 20 points. All of a sudden, the Knicks are losing. They come back, they score 3 baskets, and they're losing by 14 points. And the crowd goes wild. And the other people are saying, where are they going? They're 14 points behind. They're 3 minutes to go. Yeah, but they just beat the spread.
So I don't really know much about sports. I just learned what spread was. So I know I'm the whereas that. So I get it. I get your joke.
but staying on this theme here, someone who has a lot of experience in Hollywood, talking with people in the business, and Mayor, of course, your real life experience. And we talked about this a little bit before. The glorification and how was this day to day for some of these guys? Was it how the movie portrays it, or are these people living in constant fear of FBI could be knocking down that door any minute?
Depend on the guy.
Yeah.
Some of them lived in constant fear. Most of them would have to do what you did if you were. When you're fighting a war, do you spend your time in constant fear of dying? Well, no, you can't fight the war. So you find a way to accommodate it. You find a way to figure it into your life.
And I could be wrong, but when you were DA and you were doing all this, and I feel like things have toned down a lot from when
organized crime.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. Things have changed for better and for worse.
Yeah.
So that organized crime situation is considerably less intrusive in legitimate life.
Right.
Meaning they don't control Las Vegas. They don't control the teams. They don't control the fish market. They don't control the garment industry. They don't control major unions anymore. They're out of our legitimate life a lot, not completely, but a lot.
Yeah.
The criminal today, the thing about crime today is they're just reenacting 2020 every day. Criminals are reenacting what they saw on television in 2020. They were told you might as well send each career criminal, a letter saying things are going to be really good for you now because you can go in a store and you can steal, and they're not going to arrest you. Yeah. And if they do arrest you, Soros has put a DA in your community and let you go free. And if you should go to jail, they'll let you out. And God forbid you get a big sentence, the governor will pardon you because we'll have a Democratic governor who likes criminals more than victims.
Well, to piggyback on that, because I'm helping out, I do entertainment, but I am helping out a candidate in Brooklyn. And one of the businesses, the small businesses in his district, it has gotten broken into continually and again and again. And at this point, he says, look, I have cash registers on hand that I'm ready to either bring over to that store, because think about it. They break the cash register. The cops take hours to they have to shut the store down. They lose a ton of money. So at this point, he said, it's not worth it. We just keep either the cash register open all night with no money in it, or we have one that's ready to be replaced, rather than calling the cops, because I lose more money that way. And then nothing is done and it happens again. So at this point, it's like, the current councilman in Brooklyn seems to be mocking the crime. And same with most of the Democrats. They think crime is a mega conspiracy theory or something, but it's not.
It really is a situation unlike the 80s when we dealt with crime, where it does emerge almost exclusively from the philosophy of a particular political party. And when you look at all the cities with heavy murders, they're all Democratic mayors and Democratic city councils. And Washington, D.C. just voted for a law that essentially lets even more people out on the street. The mayor, who is a left-wing Democrat, vetoed it.
Wow.
And they passed it through the committee almost unanimously.
No, it's scary. I think living in New York, especially as a female, I mean, I said this past summer, actually, I was out, it was 10 o'clock. I was walking down the street by myself, and it was the only time I've lived here for 19 years. It was the only time I ever did not feel safe. So I was just, and you know what? I also didn't feel safe because it's a really is done to you. I don't have faith in the current system that anything will happen to this criminal. I feel like he'll be on the street a day later. So that's very scary to think about.
I think it is. And you really have to recognize the fact that quality of life is what you have to change if you're going to make people stay in cities. Mm-hmm. It isn't just crime statistics. It's the person has to feel safe walking around their neighborhood.
Yeah. And
if they see, Adams is constantly talking about murder by gun has gone down, shootings have gone down. That's great, except shootings don't affect most people, and murder by guns don't. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, assault has gone up 30-40%. Subway crime has gone up 40%. Well. Robberies have gone up 40%.
Yeah.
These crimes happen in the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands.
And the comp stats don't lie. So if you want to go online and look at these stats, they're all there for you.
Who started that program?
I don't know. Did you? You did? I'm like, is this you did? Actually, maybe I did know that.
Yeah, Bill Bratton and with the press likes to just leave Bill Bratton's name in. They forget that I had an awful lot to do with it since I had been running FBI crime statistics almost before Bratton was born.
I actually think I knew that. I think I did know that.
And I had this idea way back in 1982, 83, and used to discuss it during the Attorney General's Task Force on Violent Crime with Professor Wilson, and developed it before I got elected. But in any event.
And the mayor's being too humble. The brightest minds on the planet, Harvard, named it the program of the year.
Wow.
That's actually 100% true. Honest to God.
Oh my God.
Harvard, the best and the brightest, did name the program that was put together by Mayor Giuliani and some assistance from some others
Now the only thing that would make it would be some kind of a new discovering the 75th gender.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, you could never be considered.
You're the worst. That's not even funny. Don't even put that in the universe. Okay. I mean, all I'm going to say is I was, with all these stats out there and all these things happening, I was so disappointed in New Yorkers this past November. I mean, the fact that only 30% of New Yorkers came out to vote, number one, and number two, the fact that they seem to care more about people supporting Trump or Roe v. Wade, which is, I think Roe v. Wade's very important, but like I said, don't get me wrong, but like, we're in New York, nothing's going to change, guys.
I'll tell you what I find very, very disturbing, that Adams and the crazy, nutty city council want to give away birth control pills to everybody around the world and the country. We're going to fund birth control. We're going to fund abortion for everybody. Yeah. Everybody in the world. I mean, you can come here and get your pills.
Yeah.
So we'll become a city that in which here's what Adams sort of is thinking. He's very, very enthusiastic about the amount of money the city can make off cannabis. Now, for the city to make a lot of money off cannabis, the city doesn't have to be high every night because people have to buy a lot of it. Now, think about it. If the city's interests are aligned with more and more people getting high, more people get high, the more money the city makes. We get a decline in the people who use marijuana, the city loses money. Next thing, he wants to put up casinos. Now, for that to work, those casinos have to be very valuable. Mm-hmm. So people are going to have to be going there and losing their money all the time.
That's correct.
Okay. So now our city is going to be built on, here's going to be the economic base of our city: gambling, drugs, and killing babies.
Oh, I didn't think of it like that.
Think about it.
My only
boy,
rebuttal,
that's a real that really gets you enthusiastic about the future, boys and girls.
But my only rebuttal to that is maybe
jackasses.
No, maybe the current mayor is assuming that since people if they want weed, they're going to get weed, right? So you can go over the bridge, you can go to New Jersey, and you can give them money to get weed. That's what people are doing. Same with gambling. You can gamble there. I mean, I know my husband has placed gambling bets there. So someone's getting the money. Like
that is
well, if somebody's getting the money, we might as well get the money. But then they'll have to be, and really to get the money and make money, more and more people will have to start using it. So we'll end up like Colorado. Colorado has had to close down libraries because they're infected with methamphetamine.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And people are getting killed.
The gateway drug.
People are getting
THC. Yes, I sound like my mom or something, or my health teacher, but yes. Right I know.
There was a time when you thought you were smarter than your mother. Hopefully you're at an age now to realize your mother was smarter than you.
No, yes.
And by the way,
yes.
Scientists have now confirmed the fact that there's a chemical reaction, particularly from marijuana, that induces addictive feelings.
I could see that, actually.
Chemically.
Yeah.
This is called marijuana-induced psychosis.
This is Dr. Maria.
Dr. Maria, yes.
Speak up.
Marijuana-induced psychosis. We're seeing it in emergency departments everywhere.
Oh, my goodness.
Since the legalization, because the TSH levels are so high.
THC?
THC level.
Yeah. I'm like, TSH, that's thyroid. I have thyroid. That's why I knew that. Yeah, I'm like, I knew that.
That is another point. They now make it
stronger.
Yeah.
It's actually going back to when I dealt with marijuana, which I considered totally silly to even deal with.
Yeah.
I had so much heroin and cocaine to deal with, and people shooting each other over it, the Italian guys and the black guys and the Hispanic guy. I mean, they were all fighting with each other over it.
That brings up a good point. In some of the movies, the Mafia, they like to say, the old time guys, they wanted to stay away from drugs.
They do say that. Yeah.
What do you say, Mayor?
No, that's a bunch of crap, except for a few old timers. I mean, there was a little group within the Mafia that, I mean, like it's true about The Godfather in general. I guess it does portray it accurately because the Godfather loses that battle, right?
Yeah.
He has to go into the meeting to make the peace and say, okay, it's all right for you to, I just won't do it, but it's all right. And I'll give you political protection. There were objections to it when the Mafia first did it. Probably one of the reasons Frank Costello left is because he didn't want to do it. But Fat Tony always liked staying with gambling. But similar to what they say in what the Godfather says, which is, once you start dealing with that poison, it's going to be much harder for my people to be able to corrupt the cops. It's one thing to have a little vice with a prostitute or some booze, but all of a sudden you're going to start blowing kids' minds away. Cops are not going to like that.
That's tough. Yeah. And that's what's tough as a mother.
And the Mafia wasn't dealing with marijuana.
I was going to say, it's hard. It was hard drugs then. But now, I don't think marijuana is that big of a deal, let's say. But I have 2 kids in the city. And just knowing how easy it is to go in and purchase it, I didn't even try it until my 30s. So I don't really want my kids going in and
young minds.
No, I'm an idiot. If I do it, I'm an idiot the next day. I can't think. Exactly. I can't speak. No,
most
really.
People that try when they're in college, but imagine doing it at 10 years old.
Yeah, no, you'd be an idiot.
Smoke a doobie?
No, I don't smoke anything.
That is a term. I haven't heard that term.
I take it to go to sleep. I take the edibles to go to sleep.
No. What's the doobie?
It's joint.
It comes from the 60s.
Let's explain to the mayor.
Do people still smoke though? I thought they take it different ways now.
Oh yeah. They have pens.
No. We're not. No.
Well, okay. So I want to tell you something that I put together. This is about the mayor, about Eric Adams. So I was.
Does he do drugs?
No. I don't know. I don't know.
They say De Blasio used to.
Oh yeah, no, he did. He smoked a lot of weed. So I'm conflicted about this, right? About I did this research and I'm conflicted because I love Hollywood, I love entertainment, and so I see there's this rumor, right? And the rumor is there's this Hollywood agent. He has a 35th birthday, and he takes a selfie with Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, and him. And there's all these rumors going around that Britney Spears was photoshopped into the photo because everyone thinks she's missing and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who is this guy that he's hanging out with these famous women, Britney and, Paris? Well, his name is Cade Hudson. He is 35 and he is an agent for creative art.
It's awfully close to Cade Hudson.
It's very close, but it's Cade, Cade. He's a creative artist agency agent. Now, I Google him, I look him up. All right, his record, not totally clean. He's got, what was he accused of? Sexual misconduct for offering one of his actors sex to take a role or something like that. Well, I dig a little deeper and what do I see? Right there in front of me on Daily Mail, Eric Adams and Cade Hudson in a selfie together. Apparently, last May, Eric flew, and this is all in the Daily Mail. Eric flew to LA where Cade hosted this dinner for him where Goldie Hawn was there and Kate Hudson, among other A-list celebrities. And I'm like, wait a second. He's using campaign money? Is this why there's freaking, cameras at every stoplight giving me tickets every second? I'm like, so he can fly. No, really. So he can fly to LA to go hang out with the Hollywood elite. And he's sitting here have you seen that? The whole, when he does there's a guy on Instagram that does this impression where he just goes, and he just does that. It's so funny. But it's so funny because it's just what he is the self-proclaimed blue collar mayor. Blue collar. All you care about is partying. I want to go to LA and hang out with Kate Hudson and her mom and whatever. But why are you when New York is in flames? What do you do? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can say one thing about Mayor Giuliani. I don't think he ever wanted to go to LA.
No, did you ever Yes, no. But I want to do that. That's what I want to do. Why is our mayor doing this? Why am I jealous of the mayor? I don't get it. Why?
What is it? She makes a good point. What is it about this guy?
It's a very, very frankly, it's a very dangerous characteristic in a public official.
Exactly.
Great. I mean, loving fun and having fun, great. But a great love of the nightlife generally leads to very bad results for public officials.
He said he's contributing to the economy.
But no,
it's actually
No, it also says other things about you. It starts to say about you maybe why you really wanted public office. Right.
Exactly.
I wanted to be famous.
Exactly.
I wanted to be.
He wants a show on Fox News Channel. No, he wants a. I'm
just being straight with you. I mean, if I saw that in a young person, I would not steer them toward politics because I figure they're not going to
It's true.
do much for the public good. Now you look at Adams. Adams will sometimes say the right things, but he doesn't have the courage to do them because he will not take on the Democrat Party. And you can't be a great mayor or governor in the last 30 or 40 years if you don't occasionally take on your political party, because a political party is going to have some ideas that are not good for your state. And then you've got to decide, am I with my people or do I want to suck up so I can run for president? So this guy wants to run for president because I think he figures, well, you get into much bigger parties if you're president.
Sorry, you're right. If that is the case,
Come on. He'll be able to go to twice as many parties.
Oh my goodness.
Meanwhile, people
It's not like the ones in Iowa.
Meanwhile, children are getting shot.
Yeah.
Well, he's out there.
It's
Children
what I'm
are
saying.
getting shot.
It's not okay.
I mean, and then he does stupid things like he says, now we're going to get tough on the illegal immigrants. He invited them here.
Mm-hmm.
He invited them here. He gives them things nobody else gives them. He gives them free health care.
Cell phones. Yeah.
Why would cell phones,
Yeah.
welfare money?
Luxury hotel.
Well, it's funny because my husband's friend actually volunteers to get to greet the migrants, and sometimes she said the volunteers will show up at 6:30 a.m. and the mayor's team won't come until 10, and all of them are spending their own money. They're taking some of them home with them. Like it's a mess. Like it is much worse than.
There's
you
no
think it is.
point in
So
encouraging.
yeah.
There's no point in encouraging this. No point at all. It's a terrible thing to encourage it. And someone asked me on the radio today, I think it was today, or yesterday. They asked me, what would you do if a busload of migrants showed up? I said, if a busload of illegal immigrants showed up, I would go see the bus driver. I'd ask him, you have a little more, do you want to make a little overtime? He would say yes or no. If he said no, I said, well, get me another bus driver. I'm willing to pay him 3 times his salary if he does what I want. And he'd come and I'd say, take him to Pamela Harris. Take her to Kamala Harris. She's the czar. She got a big house.
Take her to the Naval Observatory.
She's got a big house. Don't take him to Martha's Vineyard because the rich people there don't like their smell. They don't like their smell.
I feel bad because they're people looking for a better life.
And I think Eric should open up Gracie Mansion.
Yeah, I mean that's why I feel bad. Where
You
it's like
should
they're telling them
open up.
come,
You
and
really
then they're
care?
busing them. It's not
These are
fair.
the biggest NIMBYs in the world.
But isn't it unfair to them?
I
They're
don't
saying,
see him
come,
going
come.
out with the homeless at night.
Like- It's not fair.
You can feel for these people, but also understand that we have to have the rule of law, or we're just not going to have a country
I mean,
anymore.
we were in the Keys
Right.
over holiday break, my family and I, and we're driving down a highway with the kids, and we see a bus, and there are literally about 100 migrants. Just it's sweltering hot on the side of the road. We have no idea what's going on, and I was like, this is so sad. Like you just know they're migrants, and then we saw on the news the next day. Busloads were coming into the Keys, and I'm just like, yeah, this.
Well,
It's sad.
we want to tell people about busloads, and if you're thinking about moving,
I was thinking you were going to.
you're thinking about moving, you got to check with Big John's. You got to. There's nobody that moves you better than Big John's. He's the only one I'll let move me.
Me too.
And I'm not going to let anybody move me but Big John's, particularly nowadays because they're so busy, they're really cutting corners. And almost you can understand why. I mean, particularly in New York, I think we're going to end up leading the country in outmigration. It's kind of a race between us, New Jersey, and California. Very interesting. They're all Democrat states, and they're all going to Republican states like Florida and Texas. I don't know. Does it tell you something, or you're too stupid to get it, people? I mean, you get it? Nah. It's like the people in Chicago, 50 years of voting Democrat. And every weekend is a war. They're killing kids like crazy, and you still vote Democrat? There's an Italian word for it. It's called stunad. It means stupid. Now, Big John, when he moves you, will work out whatever you need. And if, let's say you're moving, let's pick a place, unusual place like Florida. Let's say you're moving to Florida. He'll have the same group of people pick up your furniture, and then you'll see them in Boca Raton when you get there. he doesn't hand the furniture off to somebody in Maryland. Doesn't hand off to somebody in South Carolina.
They've been around forever too, haven't they?
And they've been with him for 30 to 40 years. Great place, great storage facilities. Give him a call. And Ted, give him all the go to BigJohn.com.
BigJohnsMoving.com.
BigJohnsMoving.com.
This information is scrolling across the bottom of our screen right now. Of course, supporting our sponsors is a big way to support the mayor and our show here. Check out Big John's Moving at www.bigjohnsmoving.com. That's bigjohnsmoving.com, or call 212-734-3300. That's 212-734-3300 to schedule an appointment or to get a free quote today. And remember, let them know the mayor sent you.
You get a better deal.
Lauren's show. Have you talked about your show?
My
Lauren,
show.
tell us more about.
My show.
If folks want to stay in touch with
Yes.
Lauren,
Thank
how
you.
can they stay up to date with
So
everything, Lauren?
you can stay up to date with me by listening to my podcast, Lauren and
Funny
Reviews.
as hell.
Thank you. You're so kind. I had Steve Gutenberg on this week, and
Wow.
yeah, no, he wasn't. Sorry, I'll just say it. I don't care.
Wow.
I can be respectful about it. I love him as an actor. He definitely was phoning it in for me. I have to say it was tough because I saw him on Sid and he was great. He came into WBC that morning. I think he was doing some press rounds for a new movie. So I had a phone interview with him, and he's very nice. Just one word answers that really made me dig. And at the end, no one's ever defeated me, right? Like I can usually talk and I'm good. After like 7 minutes, I was done. I was like, cool, thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna go cry now because this is so hard. This is so hard. I'm just like, what? I think I had asked him, like, tell me about some of your best friends in Hollywood, other actors. He just was like, no, that's private. I'm like, I can see on it, like, no one gives it that much of a crap about you where they're gonna go stalk you. Like,
Oh, that's
not for
private.
nothing, but I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I really like him though. I really like him. And so I was disappointed, but don't get me wrong. He was very kind, very, very gracious, just tough.
You know what our audience is going to appreciate from you, Lauren? Just your
My
authenticity.
honesty. My honesty, yeah.
Who would do that? Who would come out and say this about?
No, I just interviewed Mr. Gutenberg and he screwed it up.
No, it makes me, to be honest, you guys, it makes me sound bad. It makes me sound worse because I am the one that's like, I could just feel my laughter, my awkward laughter, filling the silence. Like I could feel.
Anytime you need somebody, pick somebody I can imitate, and I'll make believe like I could do De Niro.
Do it. Let's
Do
see.
it. Well,
I don't want De Niro. He's an
Ask me a
asshole.
question. Ask me a question.
That.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
The FCC doesn't have any control over what we do here.
Okay.
Good. Just ask me a question.
Okay, so where are you living these days?
What is it?
Tribeca.
Tribeca.
What? This is so okay.
Give me another question.
See that boring?
Yeah.
Oh my
What?
God!
What's your favorite?
That's why he
movie?
brings that woman around all the time. The woman, Jane.
Oh yeah, who does
She's the
film
key to his
festival?
success. He doesn't. I mean, she talks. He talks for him. He's like Charlie McCarthy. Like Charlie
Who is that
McCarthy.
He doesn't know a thing about politics, man.
She should put him on his lap and pull the little string.
Didn't you say
Jane Rosenthal?
Jane Rosenthal. That's her.
Yeah. She's very good.
She founded the Tribeca Film Festival.
And I also, I got to tell you, I helped them a lot because I changed all the rules in New York to make filming here cheap. I cut all the taxes, got rid of the taxes so that we could film a lot of movies in New York for the simple reason I thought they were great advertising.
He's
It was a great advertisement. I think
agree.
if people in England see New York in a movie, they want to come to New York. And when I came into office, our tourism was down to the lowest since they were recording it, the lowest it had ever been.
Yeah,
I mean, Jenkins did a pretty good job of driving everybody out of New York.
I met De Niro about 2013 in Montauk, and
He's a little better now.
Well, I was such a big fan.
Did he talk to you?
I went up to him
Doesn't mean he doesn't like
after
you.
he was done eating. It was outside. He was actually sitting with Harvey Keitel. He was done. I know. He literally. I said, Mr. De Niro, I'm such a huge fan. May I take a picture with you? And he literally looks at me and he goes, no, just like that.
I want to make a point right now. I haven't seen the mayor once turn down.
I know. Me either.
Picture.
Me either.
And I'm with him quite a bit.
He's so kind. He is
Right?
so gracious, so kind.
And he's
See?
earned his.
Yeah.
You know why?
asylum.
Yeah.
You know why?
No,
Because of me.
hasn't?
telling
Because
people-
I am a sane, balanced human being.
Yeah.
Unlike
Yeah.
Hollywood types. They haven't earned that. They haven't earned that.
I was mortified. I walked down the street back in the city on Monday, and I'm like, everyone knows. Everyone knows. It was so mortifying. Like,
Now,
and
on
I've
the
told
other
this
hand-
story before on the air because it's mortifying.
On the other hand, he's probably one of the 3 or 4 greatest actors of our generation.
I agree with you, but I can't look at him the same way. It really
I
upsets
agree
me.
with
It
you.
upsets me to watch him in movies.
You
now.
watch him play Godfather 2 in Sicilian. The guy, people think he spoke Italian.
Cape Fear is
He
my
came from an
favorite.
Italian American
Love him in Cape
family.
Fear.
I think even his father wasn't born in Italy. He had to learn not Italian. It's a different language. Sicilian.
Yeah.
It was, I am told, because I know lots of Sicilian translators, I had to go find them. And I'm told he was perfect.
Really?
Perfect. Then I'm going to tell you the real sign of why he's a great actor. Think of all the great performances. Deer Hunter.
Cape Fear, my favorite.
Oh,
I
Cape
love
Fear.
It's my
But
favorite.
then-
yeah.
I thought
So
Billy
good.
Crystal made the best point.
Oh,
He can do comedy.
he can.
Very few great actors
That's a
can
great
do
point.
comedy. But he
Agreed.
did it with Analyze
I was
This.
just gonna say analyze. This.
Analyze This was,
Yeah.
but Analyze This is just as funny.
Mhm.
Analyze That is awful. Awful.
Mhm.
Two different movies.
Yeah, but it's the same two people. You know what I think it was? You'll know this about comedy. I learned this from being on Saturday Night Live. The ones that always didn't work were just 2 minutes too long
Mm.
because they're usually a one joke skit,
Yeah.
one thing that's really very funny. So the thing that was very funny about Analyze This is the mafia boss was going to a psychiatrist and he didn't want anybody to know.
Mhm.
Well, that plays itself out.
Exactly.
I mean, it was just about made it to the end of Analyze This. Well, but then they tried the same thing again, and it really wasn't very good. Now, the Fockers and
Meet the parents.
the, se-
Yeah.
the second movie was even better than the first movie.
Yeah. I thought so
That was
too.
That was an
I thought so,
example of
too.
how the second was better than the first.
I like Dirty Grandpa too. No one's seen that. It's horrible. Zac Efron and Robert De Niro,
Wow.
but it's funny. Anyway, yeah.
Thanks for joining us. The fastest hour on the internet. We are running some overtime tonight, which
Watch Mr. Jones. We'll talk about that tomorrow night, Mr. Jones. Good for history.
I want to get to.
Good for history. We'll just ask 1 or 2 questions.
One
We'll
or
go.
two-
We'll go into overtime
We're going overtime.
like it's a soccer game. Don't tell us how much time we have.
We don't. I can't tell
I
you
hate that. I hate it.
it's time. It's just a running clock, but I don't.
It's not fair. I don't even know how much time I have to kick the ball.
So, Mayor, what happened to Jimmy Hoffa? Real quick.
Ooh.
Let's make some news tonight. This is.
Ooh.
Well, if the first of all, I have no inside information, but if the mafia didn't kill them, I would eat my hat.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
pretty certain the mafia killed Jimmy.
He was constantly causing them trouble, and he didn't realize. I mean, he got bigger than. He wasn't bigger than them. He thought he was.
Thought he was.
Well, they made him.
The Teamsters did.
The Teamsters made him because his people were getting beat to hell.
And he agreed not to go back and to run for office when he got out of prison.
Because he was screwing them. He was, they were.
But he did.
Yeah.
And they killed him.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, it's obviously
Yeah.
the mafia killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Gambino.
And they say, oh, they're going to find his body.
Yeah.
You remember when Geraldo Rivera, was it Geraldo Rivera?
Yes, that was
we're gonna
pitiful.
Talk about
Yeah.
they dug in the wrong spot.
Pitiful. When he opened it and it was nothing.
Yeah, the best you get.
That was a different
yeah.
thing, right?
That was for something else. That was,
Yeah, that was a safe. That was funny though.
I feel like when
You
I
know the
finally
same-
break into Jeffrey Epstein's house, it's gonna be like a Geraldo moment. I'm fine. I'm gonna just bust down the door. It's gonna be like
I
empty.
was gonna say, it's right there.
I walk by it every day, guys. Like literally.
I don't even know which house it
I've
is.
tried to get in. It's
Don't
9
tell me.
nine
I'll run past.
90 71st Street. It's right here.
It's quite.
Yeah.
It's quite disturbing. So
Yeah,
last
sorry.
question. The Gambino family, were they one of the 5 families?
Yes.
So how?
Do I win a prize?
Yeah,
Do we get a
I
prize
know.
now? Yes.
I knew that. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, somebody wanted you to react to some recent news. They're back in the. Apparently, there's been an arrest of a member of the family. Someone's basically asking.
Yeah, they're still around.
And
Well, I call them the sissy mafia.
Frank Camuso busted in sprawling New York City construction kickback scheme.
Oh yeah, big
no.
deal. Construction kickback. Yeah, you're a big shot, Camucho.
Basically, he gave inside
Mucho
information on
Camucho.
competitors' bids to his co-conspirators and directed subcontractors to raise their offers
Oh,
to an amount that
Big
we're
crime.
having to pocket some kickbacks.
There's a big crime, right?
Yeah, that wouldn't make any movies.
Yeah, we're talking about wannabes.
But can you imagine-
We're talking about gene pool. We're talking about a very nice thing for the Italian community or Italian American community or American Italian community, which would be the better way to say it. They've moved on. So the gene pool has left a few people behind, but by and large, Italians don't have to do that anymore. My father, I'll end with this. My father always was very concerned that not enough people with Italian names were graduating from college. He said, we as a group, meaning Italian Americans, didn't pick up the necessity for education as well as some other groups. And I would notice that. And then all of a sudden, I started to give a lot of commencement speeches. I've probably given about 50. And I found myself, without realizing it, it took me a couple of times to realize why I was doing it, looking at the names while I sat there, either before or after I gave my speech, and they were getting their degrees. And I'd see an Italian name and I go, wow, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. And after about 3, I realized it was because of my father.
Aw, that's
And now
so
there was one
sweet.
where the whole damn place was Italian. I wanted to go to his grave and put it there.
Aw.
That was one of his things. And if you look at the last 30 years, I'm talking about 30 years now, the level of education for youngsters who are Italian or half Italian or whatever by background is, the same or better than a lot of other groups. That wasn't the case back with these people. The Italian immigrant theory was unlike the Jewish immigrant theory. It was work. I'm a tailor. You're going to be a tailor. I have a store, you're going to work in the store. And the more children you had, the wealthier you were because the more people could work for you for nothing. No, there's something not so good about that. But there was a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Whereas the ethos in the basic Jewish family, you can overdo this and you can overgeneralize it, was get an education.
Get an education. Oh, so
Get an education. Get an education. Get an education.
Yeah. Right.
That happened. Let's say maybe the best way to describe it is it kind of skipped a generation with Italian Americans.
Okay.
Didn't happen right away. It happened 20 years later.
Before we
And that might have helped with the mafia, and it might have left some people, to your point, might have left some people behind that were pretty damn smart, that might have been very successful if they had had a chance. That's probably right.
So before we sign off, Lauren, we want to give you an opportunity to give some final thoughts, and then we'll go back to the mayor before we sign off.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I plug my show. You can follow me on Instagram at Lauren_interviews. You can
And you'll
follow me.
laugh.
Yes, you'll laugh.
And you'll learn something.
We need more of that.
And you'll find out which actors are.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, no, and you can also see me. You can see some of my features that I write on NikkiSwift.com. You can I feel like I just bounce around. So just look for me and follow me.
Find a role.
Lauren_say it again.
Lauren_interviews on Instagram and Conlin Lauren on Twitter.
And of course, Lauren, is this your second or third time on the show?
This is my second time and I have so much fun.
Yeah,
So
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
First repeat guest.
I love it.
You
I'll
are
come
now
on any
officially
night.
A friend of not just a guest, but a friend of the show.
Yeah, she's a friend of the show. But we got to do radio so I can make believe she could get a couple of good interviews in. I could do a few others. I could do Marlon Brando. Well, Marlon Brando's dead. You can't interview Marlon Brando. I could do Marlon Brando from The Godfather.
Mayor, send us
You're
out for
good.
the evening, and we'll see.
It's been nice to talk to you all tonight,
That's better.
and we'll see you tomorrow or what? Huh?